eagle on the back of our dollar bill on the Great Seal is a stylized phoenix bird. Emblazoned above his head are the 13 stars, and we'll talk about the number 13 when we get to that in our series on the King James Code. And these stars make a hexagram, a triangle pointing upward and a triangle pointing downward, showing you the number 6. In the street layout of Washington, D.C., we have a hexagon built into the street layout there, a triangle pointing eastward, a triangle pointing westward, showing you the fusion of opposites. And what we have is a representation of the number 6 and the opposites together, the sons of God coming into the daughters of men, fusing themselves together to make the transformed man or the God-man. Manly P. Hall, Masonic writer, says this. He calls it the Star of Zion. He says these triangles symbolize the spiritual and material universes linked together in the constitution of the human creature. The two worlds joining together in the constitution of humanity, which is our DNA, who partakes of both nature and divinity. And we're starting to see this symbol of the number 6 and the number 3s fused together in just about every place. Take a look at the logo for Walmart. Notice we have probably an image of the sun in the center, and we have 3 rays on the top, and we have 3 rays on the bottom. This makes the number 6. It is the 2 images or the 2 kingdoms fused together. And notice their logo, Walmart, save money, live better. I was traveling in Michigan several years ago, and I happened by this billboard. We had to stop. I had to take a picture of this because it was a billboard put up by the Michigan Masons showing the exact same thing. It says, share the secret, and they have the blade and the chalice, the triangle pointing upward, the triangle pointing downward. They are fused together. So we have the number 6 drawn here, and we have the slogan below that, Masons live better. The exact same thing. It has to do with making man more than just man, making him into a God. Here is the logo for E-Trade. Now this has to do with buying and selling. Notice in Revelation 13 it said that so that no man might buy or sell, save that it had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, and his number is 603,6. And so here we have E-Trade, which has to do with buying and selling. Notice their logo. 3 pointing one way, 3 pointing the other, and they are fused together, making the number 6, which is a number for the transformation of man into gods. Occult writer Madame Blavatsky spoke of 7 races. Currently, we are on the 5th race. And she writes about awaiting the dawning of what she called the 6th root race. And this 6th root race was going to be the fusion of the spiritual world and the human world together. And here is the logo for this 6th root race. And notice that we have a swastika. That is a representation of the X chromosome. We have the Ouroboros, the snake with the tail in its mouth. The tail represents the male. The snake's mouth represents the female. And we have our 6-sided hexagon, a combination of 3 pointing up and 3 pointing down, the fusion of opposites together. All throughout the occult world and in occult mythology, you have this concept of a God who was both God and man fused together, usually in the form of the gods mating with a human woman and producing a hybrid offspring who is a sort of demigod, they call it, who is half God, half man. Here is one of those gods by the name of Saturn. Now the Bible refers to him as Chiun, and in Amos chapter 5 verse 26, God said, "But you have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and your Chiun, who is Saturn, your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves." Now that we're going to look at a star-shaped symbol, which is a hexagon, being a symbol for the god Chiun, or the god Saturn. Now this amazes me in that we have a planet called Saturn. And unbeknownst to people for thousands of years, now known to us because we have a satellite that flies over Saturn taking pictures, and we discovered that on the north pole of the planet Saturn, we have a hexagon, a six-sided figure, and it's like in the cloud formations at the north pole of Saturn, and it never goes away. A constant six-sided, and this is just weird anyway, that this would be in a cloud formation like that. But here, thousands, millions of miles away in outer space, we have a star, a planet named after a god whose number is 6, and we have a six-sided hexagon on top of this planet. Wow. This is absolutely amazing to me. And the Pope wears a hat to mimic the rings of Saturn, and that hat is called the Saturno. It is a representation of the God of the Vatican. The fusion of the God world and the man world together, 666. One of Freemason's symbols is that of bees in a hive, and there's a lot of teaching behind this. The fact that a hive is governed by a female and not a male, a queen. That is Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The fact that bees are all the same, and Freemasonry talks about the brotherhood of mankind. And when mankind is all brothers, it's because they all have the same father. Ye are of your father the devil, Jesus said. But anyway, the interesting thing about bees and a hive is that they always form their little cubicles in their hive as a hexagon. The number 6. The fusion of the opposites together, male and female, the yin and the yang, the square and the compass, the earthly with the heavenly fused together. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. From the Da Vinci Code, we learned about a group of kings called the Merovingian kings. By the way, the original Merovingian king, King Merove, the story is that he had a human mother and a sea serpent, Leviathan, for his father. Right out of the pages of the Scripture, my friend. But the emblem for the Merovingian kings was that of a bee and the six-sided hexagon, showing the fusion of the two opposites together. Notice the fusion of that. We have a triangle pointing downward, and we have a bee whose triangle points upward. That's a hexagon. That is the fusion of the two kingdoms together. Recently, there was a TV show called V. It has to do with the aliens coming down to Earth to give us a better life, to transform mankind. Notice the imagery that's on the bottom of their mothership. Hexagons, six-sided figures. In the occult world and Freemasonry, you have the image of a cube. Now, a cube, Manly Hall describes, and a lot of the other Masonic authors describe, that a cube basically is essentially a cross. When you unfold a cube, you make a cross out of it, hence the X chromosome of mankind. But they say the cube represents the number 6 because it has 6 sides. Here are images taken of cube statues all over the world. For some reason, it just seems like mankind is enamored with this whole cube concept. And remember, it represents the number 6. And so here we have a movie that came out called Transformers. How people can be transformed. And in this movie, there was a cube called the Allspark. Now, the Allspark, as soon as I heard this, I recognized this. The Gnostics, the people that don't believe in God, the God that you and I believe in, the Gnostics believe that we have a God within us. They believe that there is a spark of divinity inside of all mankind, and that through the proper rituals, this spark will fuse itself with mankind, and mankind will become a God in and of himself. If you saw the movie with Morgan Freeman and Jim Carrey called Bruce Almighty, Morgan Freeman explains in this that mankind has a spark of divinity in him. That is the same as the Allspark, that cube that is in the movie Transformers. And this Allspark cube gives life to all electronic devices. And this is a perfect concept of the false prophet who gives life to the image of the beast. Now, let me show you another symbol that you've probably seen before that is related to this whole theme of the number 6 and this transformation of mankind, the fusion of opposites together inside of the very DNA of man, and is the ancient symbol of the sacred spiral. In fact, if you Google that, you'll find different websites, one here called the Sacred Spiral. Notice this website, the Sacred Spiral Clan. Notice that they use this sacred spiral in the same shape as we saw earlier with the 3-strand DNA and the Triskele. The sacred spiral is based upon the Fibonacci sequence. Now, if you want more teaching on that, get our video called Jesus Christ, DNA in the Holy Bible, and I will teach you all about the Fibonacci sequence, and just one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen in the world and from the pages of the Bible. It is just really, really neat. But this whole Fibonacci spiral is a spiral of life. Now, we know that God is the author of life, but in this study that we're doing, we're seeing the transformation or the altering of mankind's spiral of life, his DNA. Here's a book by Lynn Horowitz that I do not recommend called Pirates of the Sacred Spiral, and he was talking about DNA being that sacred